is the vegetable that's so low in calories? What makes the salad come alive? Fried with some butter or even on a barbecue, the one that's got the taste you can't hide. Mushrooms, the taste for all seasons. Mushrooms, got a taste of their own. Mushrooms, for so many reasons. The taste sensational, vegetable for all seasons.
For most of my life, I had the perception that mushrooms were just food. There's a huge variety of mushrooms to be found in the province of British Columbia. I began foraging, and my interests continued to grow. I started learning about identification, and I soon found out that some mushrooms are edible, but some are very toxic. And to some people, the word mushrooms simply means you're referring to a hallucinogenic drug. It was not until recently that I learned mushrooms can also be medicine. If you are in the forest and you look up at the trees, you may spot a mushroom hanging off the side of a birch tree with the potential to change our society's perspective on what we view as valid medicine. This mushroom is unlike all others.
This is called chaga.
The chaga mushroom.
Chaga.
I needed to know, what exactly sets this mushroom apart? How do we utilize it? How do we find it? And is it something that we can really trust? This mushroom is one of nature's great gifts. Found throughout the world, it is a controversial natural healer. This mushroom is chaga, the king mushroom.
So this is a Chaga. I first came upon Chaga in a book by Solzhenitsyn called The Cancer Ward, where in northern Russia, in the archipelago there, in Siberian work camps, they would use it for cancers and tuberculosis. But my first encounter with it was really when I lived in northern Alberta for a period of time, and we had really giant birch trees up there. And it was fairly plentiful. I noticed that some of the indigenous healers in the area would take it and make decoctions with it. They would do sort of sickness rituals with it.
Did chaga seemingly come out of nowhere? Is this just another health fad? It's not just mycophiles and foragers who appreciate this mushroom. Its value has been known by the indigenous peoples of the Northern Hemisphere for thousands of years, and possibly since the earliest of civilization. Cree healers, the Denisoline peoples, Gitxsan peoples, Dena'ina peoples, and Ojibwe people in the Western Hemisphere, and the Khanty peoples and Mansi peoples of Siberia are all known to have used chaga. Its traditional usage of infusions, extracts, and soaps provide immune support, anti-inflammatory effects, and support digestive health, alongside also being used for spiritual purposes. The naturally mummified Iceman, referred to as Otzi, was discovered with chaga in his pocket. His remains were believed to have been from over 5,000 years ago. Chaga has a remarkable ability to hold an ember. That chunk of chaga was likely used for fire. Records of chaga usage in Europe date back to the 12th century. Russian Tsars used chaga to heal tumors. We know that Hippocrates, referred to as the father of Western medicine, used chaga. Shen Nun, referred to as the father of Chinese medicine, and who is believed to have introduced the concepts of acupuncture and agriculture in China, called chaga the king of herbs. During World War II, chaga was used as a coffee substitute in Finland. In 1955, it was briefly recognized part of a medical system. The USSR Ministry of Health recognized the therapeutic benefits of chaga, and it was included in their pharmacopoeia. This mushroom is all but a trend. Although there is plenty of false information out there about chaga, there is ancient knowledge and modern research which holds validity. Plant medicines were used to guide the earliest pharmaceutical research, and we fail to acknowledge that there is more than simply potential in what can be found in nature.
It's a knee-jerk response that all natural products, well, how could they possibly have any medicine? But we know from thousands and thousands of years of traditional medicines that they work. And so, is the proof going to be that we finally found a molecule in, say, chaga or reishi or whatever, that is going to be developed synthetically into a pill where Big Pharma can make a bunch of money on it? They may try, but it's going to be very difficult. I don't see any on this bush anyways. The medical world believes that basically you're deficient or you need something outside of yourself to rescue you and heal you. Whereas the natural community believe in the vital force of us being able to rally our own mechanisms within us to bring balance to our body. It's a totally different system.
There's been a noticeable rising interest in mushroom supplements and adaptogenic products. You can easily source out the mushrooms which are noted for medicinal qualities, both online, through local foragers, and now usually in designated sections at health food stores. Even if someone has no idea how to harvest these mushrooms on their own, it is not like they are inaccessible.
My name is Paul Kruger, and I am an amateur mycologist who's been studying mushrooms since the early 1970s. I'm a founding member of the Vancouver Mycological Society, and I'm fairly considered to be the Western Canadian mushroom expert. It's definitely very important if somebody's going to be trying medicinal mushrooms that they share it with that information of what they're doing with the conventional physicians. Perhaps this will also help to point out to the physicians potential within the medicinal mushroom. So it could be in everybody's benefit.
Hi, my name is Greg Steed. I am a harvester and user of natural medicines from the forest and from nature. I was planer feeder operator. So as the boards come through the mill, they have to be turned side to a certain size before they go in through the big planer machine. Consecutive flipping of the boards from the end, 24 feet long, 2x12s. It was just too much for my back after it was about 8 months. And my back finally, I was just getting sore and sore, having a lot of hard times walking. And then finally I just came to the point I was really having a lot of pain just getting into work, walking up the stairs into the planer building. And that was about it. I just told them I can't work anymore. It's just too much pain, and this has really affected my life. I've got to stop working right now. Just after that is within that week, the 3 to 4 days, is when my back started collapsing in and started getting pushed over. And that's within the week I was bent over, and I wouldn't have been able to work because I was hardly walking at that point within 8 days of my injury. I blew all the discs in my back and my hip. Within 4 to 5 days of my injury, my swelling started in my shoulders and my neck started to push me over. And within 4 or 5 days, I was on an angle like this. And at the end of the week of my injury, I was almost in a 90-degree position with my back, and I froze like that for 2 years. The doctors wanted to do a lot of surgeries on my back. They wanted to take my spine apart. They wanted to do a rhizotomy and laser off my nerve endings. They wanted to do a whole bunch of stuff, including putting me on a terrible pill pain regime. Since I refused all the medicines and surgery, the doctor said there's nothing he could do for me, and I just suffered with it. Suffered for another year until a friend of mine came over who I hadn't seen for a few years earlier. He said, just a minute, I've got your cure out in my truck. So he went out to his truck, came back in with a piece of chaga. I'd never seen this before. I had never heard anything about it. So literally he took the piece of chaga, broke a chunk off, put it in a pot of water on my stove. I steeped it up like tea, a dark black tea. For me, it was 2 weeks. Day 15, I woke up in the morning and I had so much energy. I didn't know what was really going on in my life this morning. I used that to my advantage since I had the energy. I jumped out of bed that morning and literally I sprung out of bed. I was standing for the first time in 2 years, standing straight up and down. 80% of my pain was gone, and I had a whole new life owing all of that just to a simple little remedy from nature. Something that I wanted to study a bit more on because it was helping me so much. As soon as I started studying on it, I found that in North America, there is only about 40% of the population that even knows about chaga. There's a lot of different properties in the chaga, and it does so many different things for the body. It's just for people to actually believe in it and get out there and try it.
Well, the life cycle of mushrooms is quite different than what we experience as humans. It starts off with a spore, which is produced by the fruiting bodies. The spores generally float into the air on a very still, hot, humid day. You can see the spores floating away. And so those spores actually hope at some point to meet a spore of a similar species, and they form what is known as a little hyphae that then starts to grow and expand and eat food and start to expand and create what is called a mycelium.
Mycelium is a network that connects our forests. It is the lifeblood of mushrooms and a collection of electrical exchanges that allow the trees to speak to one another. Mycelium is integral to a functioning ecosystem, and it has intelligence that we are only just starting to understand. Chaga spores enter from the air into an injury on the tree. The mycelium starts to grow in the heartwood of the tree, eventually growing into a hardened mycelial mass that protrudes from the tree. This visible portion is the Chaga sclerosum. If harvested correctly, it will continue to grow back for many years. until the mycelium eventually softens and weakens the tree, leading the host tree to die.
As you can see up there, there was a big piece of chaga, and it either fell or it was picked. But this is what the chaga does at the end of its life. It kills the tree, it rips open the bark in a vertical way all throughout the tree's trunk, and then it reveals the chaga poroid. And all of these here, all these flakes are like filled with chaga spores, and all this powder, that's chaga spore powder. So this is an indicator when you're looking for chaga or trying to figure out if it's sustainable to harvest in an area, that there's spores in the area. So there's going to be chaga here in the future, even if you don't see it now.
In response to the harsh environment that it grows in and numerous stressors, chaga developed a complex defense mechanism, which resulted in it producing incredible and very bioactive compounds within the mushroom itself.
There's 5 mushrooms that grow on birch trees. Chaga is just one of them. But if one is dominated by a mushroom, whoever got there first, they basically exude something that prevents other fungi from growing on the same tree.
The value of chaga is not unknown. It is just that now more people in Western society are becoming aware of it and interested. So the question arises, how is it harvested? And if more people decide that they want it, will that be sustainable?
The chaga is very hard to find. I can go on a whole mountainside of birch trees and spend 3 or 4 days and not find anything.
Research has shown that the compounds in chaga vary depending on location. Chaga found in Canada is not the same as chaga found in France, and so on.
If there's a spore in that area, it will spread and grow in that area, but it won't spread that spore down a mountainside and keep on going forever. It is very, finicky that way. It just wants its little area.
It's not as though you can go to any birch tree and spot a chaga. Some areas where it's less prevalent, you might be looking at 20, 30, 40, 50 trees before you stumble across one with chaga.
A good friend of mine, we were I went up and did a workshop, we were having a coffee one morning in Whitehorse, and this 4x4 truck comes by, piled to the gills with chaga, with 2 chainsaws sitting on top of all the chaga. And I went out of the coffee shop and I looked, and they had taken the chaga and they had taken chainsaws and cut right into the birch to remove part of the birch tree and kill the birch tree. See, that's not sustainable. Prying this off, in a few years, another chaga will start to appear in the same spot if it's done properly. So that's one degree of sustainability.
Wildcrafting, which is ethically harvesting. We're not stomping on the grass all around when we harvest. We don't use spikes on our boots to spike and climb up the tree. We have ropes, little wooden chair, throw a pulley up, and then we just, the 2 of us, pull each other up, take turns going up the tree and harvesting the chaga. In the winter time, it is a lot stronger. It's got its full 100% minerals and nutrients. Everything is at full strength in the winter time. When it starts to cool down, the tree knows it's going to go dormant, so it starts soaking up all of its energy. Everything is all built up into the chaga, so it can go dormant for the winter and have everything, all the nutrition is packed in.
A chaga will not grow to a fruiting body in a factory. Not like many mushrooms, lion's mane, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They all have methods of how they can grow them by creating the right substrate and setting. But chaga does not respond to that.
So there's some people that swear by religious supplementation with it, and then there's others that suggest using it only in more of a medicinal approach and when you need it.
And we've had a few cases of people suffering illness from chaga products, usually heavy consumers of chaga. There's a form of oxalic acid that's water soluble.
Oxalic acid is in lots of different foods. If they're not prone to attaching to calcium and forming calcium oxalate, which is easily removed from the body, they can become calcium oxalate type stones in the kidneys. My recommendation to people who enjoy drinking chaga, which really shouldn't be taken as a daily beverage. It's a medicine. It's not a coffee or a tea. It's a medicine. But if they take a little bit of calcium with that particular beverage, they will prevent the problems associated with damage to the kidneys.
Primary compounds of interest in chaga are betulinic acid and some of its derivatives, a steroid by the name of inotodiol.
This melanin here has some really incredible, important medicinal aspects to it. Melanin is not only the compound by which we have skin color, right? Melanin, right? But it also has a melanin as in melatonin, which helps us sleep. The dark, rich brown color, rusty brown color on the inside, that's considered mostly the really beneficial medicinal part, not yet proven. There's no clinical trials that prove it's efficacious. However, there are numerous clinical trials showing that it has antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and anti-cancer, all of these kind of things in trials that involve in vitro or animals, lab animals like mice. So there's a lot of that. And there's tons of empirical. I get emails from people every day going, esophageal, ovarian, uterine, lung cancers, that people took chaga and they were quite cured.
There is a huge divide in the way that Western society views traditional medicine versus what a doctor prescribes to you. There's definitely a certain level of testing and physician advocacy that is needed before something is even gained consideration about being introduced into the Western medical system. Will chaga and other medicinal mushrooms remain something deemed simply a natural product?
The reality is we have millions of cancer cells in our body at any given time that are being knocked off by an adequate system. If the system is already immune compromised, which many things in our society are prone to do, such as our water and air, for example, our food supplies, all of them really have carcinogens that sometimes cause more of an assault on our body than our normal immune system can handle. The fact is that medicinal mushrooms not only alleviate a lot of the side effects, such as brain, kidney, liver damage during chemo, but actually extends their life.
Issues that come up with conventional medicinal material testing has to do with delivery to where it's needed in the body, safety within the body. Once it's done its thing, how is it eliminated? Does it affect other organ systems, etc.? So there's a lot of these questions that need to be addressed.
The brilliant advance of drug therapy is one of the great dramatic stories of our time. The discoveries of tomorrow, which promise the control and cure of the diseases that still plague us, are being charted by America's research scientists. Thousands of new compounds are tested and discarded, and millions of dollars invested for every new drug that eventually reaches the public.
I did work on a project at UBC where we were gathering wild mushrooms from the forest and extracting them with solvents, and then testing the extract on discs of paper and put them in petri dishes with bacterial cultures and see if they create a kill zone around the paper disc in the bacterial culture. Then that identifies something with potential antibiotic properties. And we found that many of the standard wild mushrooms around us are able to inhibit the growth of some bacterium. We don't know if the compounds responsible for inhibiting the bacteria would be safe for human use or even effective in an actual infection by that bacterium. But it shows that the potential is there and that they're bioactive. It's very sad that some of these couldn't have been developed further, explored further, because we could see the potential.
I wanted to do a 100-patient trial on lion's mane, which is great for brain neuron growth factor. And I haven't been able to get the funding. I can find nobody, simply because it is a natural product. And you can't patent natural products. What you can patent is the process by which they're made.
There is a lot more research needed on side effects, interactions with other medications, dosages, and also an understanding on the true scale of what chaga can actually treat, in order for chaga to possibly become something that holds validity in our medical system.
Our doctors only give you medicines or prescriptions for what they are trained on.
I think it is a money issue, and it's very unfortunate, because really it would be a great investment into keeping all of us healthier and happier.
We have to get out there and we have to show our voice. We have to voice our opinions.
Seems that mushrooms have the ability to help our body and our mind in a very powerful way. But is it yet something that we are comfortable with using as medicine? If human clinical trials were to be done on chaga with the same haste as, say, new vaccines or diabetes treatments, I think it's safe to assume that it could result in very positive outcomes.
I can look after nature because it's looking after me.
How beautiful that our earth grows chaga, a member of the kingdom hidden around us. Fungi, and with the ability to change our lives and change our minds on what medicine means with focused attention and a different perspective. This mushroom may be used in conjunction with our conventional medical treatments in the future. What will the future look like for chaga? One of nature's great gifts.
Are you feeling positive about the future of mushrooms within medicine and healthcare?
Yes, absolutely. Oh yeah, I think there's so much we don't know and so much to learn, and there's such a need. I think it's inevitable.
Oh, this piece right here would be a piece we call bird chaga, for the simple reason it's already sits on the side of the tree like this, and it's got its little nest already built in, so they can move right in, put a little bit of straw inside here, and they already have a little free house already built onto the tree.